I'm currently in a depressive episode and have recently found myself reverting back to old modes of behavior like binge, stress eating, and procrastination. Whenever there's a feeling of pain, I resort to an outside fix like social media, food, or some other distraction to lessen it. I think this is due to not fully emotionally processing what happened to me in childhood. I believe this depressive episode came to the forefront when I considered going to a bachelor party of my old friends and came to a rational conclusion that they are not virtuous. Despite me knowing that they are not virtuous, I'm still torn on seeing them. How do I know these friends are not virtuous? Um, First, they're self-professed Christians, and I've had this just to elaborate more. I've had this change recently where I've become an atheist, and since they denounce rationality for faith, um, there's no to me. I couldn't see how there was a basis for honesty for them, and they're just not pursuing that. Um, so some of these friends will take 2 to 3 days to respond to my text, and while in the past I had some annoyance with this, last week when one of them did this, I was incredibly sad and angry from it. How can I respect myself if I allow people who I call friends, who we say that we love each other, to treat me in this way? They live in other states from me, but we still stay in contact through a group text chat. I have no other friends than these. I have not seen them in person in several months. I am in the process of going through your old podcast consecutively and currently in the 900s. Despite having gone through so much of your material in the past 3 to 4 months, I still have this resistance about leaving my old friends. In one of the recent episodes I was listening to, you talk about there's always one parent that gets away. I know my mother's definitely this. Could this have something to do with my current depressive episode? And if it was right for me to leave these people, what would be the best way to go about it without triggering their sadism if they are sadistic at all? So that was my email.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And I'm sorry for everything that you're going through. I'm afraid it's standard issue when it comes to self-knowledge that there's not always as many people to come along as we would like. But tell me a little bit about your childhood. Let's do the deep lore.
So my dad was an alcoholic and my mom was the enabler of that. Um, so um, Going through this whole defruit process, I've spent a lot of time thinking about my dad and not more physical abuse as it was just verbal abuse, feeling shame, feeling guilt um, for um, I always had to be basically the emotional center. And so I think that, but in the family, and I would feel shame or feel guilt if I had any other feelings. I think that was opposite to trying to wrangle these two people, my mom and my dad. Um, so at least I'm looking back and having, or sorry, thinking that I had feelings of shame and guilt back then, because this is really what I'm feeling now with my friends. I'm feeling shame and guilt about not going to go see them. And I know you also talk about in your older podcasts, follow the benefit of the feeling. Um, and I know that shame and guilt would have benefited my parents, those feelings, because it would have kept me within their control. So, does that make sense what I'm saying right now?
Yes, Josh, go ahead.
Um, so yeah, it was my childhood was more just forced to do a lot of labor around. We lived in a little country, 3 acres and just some woods and stuff like that. And we were always having to do just the most boring, uh, just toil. Um, and my brother and I, and my dad was very hot-headed, high temper. If anything didn't go his way, he'd act very childish. Storm off, leave or stuff like that. Never really leave the house, but definitely storm away, slam doors and stuff like that, or yell at us. So does that paint a good picture of what you're looking for?
Yeah, you said sort of hot-headed and so on. I mean, isn't that just immature and a bully?
Yes.
I mean, it's one thing if you're, yelling at people twice your size, because, but if you're yelling at kids, that's just kind of bullying. I don't want to mischaracterize it, but that's sort of my thought about it.
Yeah, and, there was always that hypocrisy there of, um, he experienced physical abuse when he was a kid, and, he said he'd never do that to us, but he was, like you said, he was still a bully just in a different way, and, that was just some thought that came to mind as you were saying that was just there really was some hypocrisy there because it was almost like he was saying, with the bullying that he was doing in the present time with the verbal abuse and the yelling and the being a bully, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. So there's a funny kind of helplessness that parents have when they don't have any credibility with their kids. You just did a long podcast about this the other day, a call-in show. So I'll just touch on it briefly here. But if you want your children to be good as a parent, you have to be good. Right? I mean, if you want your children to learn English, then you have to speak English. And parents who don't have credibility with their children for whatever reason have a very tough time. And parenting is the least fun when you don't have any credibility. Like if I say to my daughter, do X, Y, or Z to be good, and I sort of give her the reasons why, and I've modeled that behavior with that, right? Like if I say, you should speak up if you have a problem with someone, and I have spoken up when I've had problems with people, and she's seen that sort of my whole life, then I have credibility because I've done it, if that makes sense. And
Yeah.
and if your parents, it sounds like, and obviously I'm just learning about this situation, so correct me where I've gone astray, but it sounds like your parents didn't have much credibility with you and your siblings, if you had siblings.
Yeah, I have a younger brother, who's still around them, and, I guess I'd be interested just as a kid because I just profoundly hated, doing any instructions from him, any of the labor that we had to do and stuff like that, so are you saying that if he had credibility, I would have been more inclined to doing those things that he asked?
Well, okay, so
That the
if the
feeling
was
was
it like farm stuff? Was it like fixing fence and cows, or like what was it? The kind of labor that you hated doing?
I knew we did a lot of landscaping stuff because we had this, we were on a double wide trailer and then had some flat land going out, and so we would do just a bunch of, digging. One time we had to do something with, there's a septic tank. Um, we had a septic tank out in this rural area, so we had to deal with that sewage and stuff like that, and, um, not necessarily farm work. We didn't have
Yeah, but
livestock
just like
or,
country stuff, right? Country stuff. Okay.
yes.
All right. So if you enjoy, let's say you really enjoyed your father's company, and let's say you had a gross job to do, right? Like I remember having to move an outhouse once on a friend's cottage, and that's a gross job. Now, it was fine though, because it was actually kind of funny because, my friends and I were moving this outhouse and, filling it in. And it was the most foul thing I think I've ever done in my life. And it was so foul that it just became funny. And we were making jokes, of course, and so on. And it was sort of memorable. I don't look back on it with any negativity. Like it was just a very vivid experience that we had a lot of fun with. So if you really enjoyed your dad's company and you had this sort of foul sewage job to do, well, you'd go out, you'd make your jokes, it would be memorable, and it wouldn't be such a negative thing. In fact, you might even look back on it as a sort of vivid thing that was kind of enjoyable in its own way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember even one time, I think my brother and I were doing some work, and I just said out loud, "Man, I just feel like we're slaves here," and, he just punished us with even more work.
Right.
So,
Okay, so another thing that may have happened with the chores is okay, tell me a little bit about before I get into that, tell me a little bit about your father's alcoholism. I mean, because that's a pretty wide spectrum of potential disorders, from like a couple of extra drinks on the weekend to like full Charles Bukowski stuff or whatever. So, What was your father's alcoholism like? Give me sort of a week in your childhood with your dad's drinking.
It was never. I wouldn't say it was to just completely destructive, destroying everything, Charles Bukowski level. But it was something where he hit it. It wasn't talked about. Um, it was only really brought up when I was probably 17 or 18, and even then, it was like, "Oh, what do we do about it?" But, um, you know, uh, he did have it. He still has a dependency on it throughout his life, and it was more, um, in the afternoon, um, he would sneak, um, drinks and get drunk and stuff like that, but never brought it up. And there'd be times where it would escalate, where he would be, one time, uh, he drove home with my brother from a hockey practice and was drunk and swerving all over the road. So that was definitely a terrible thing. And um, other than that, it's not like his behavior uh, was. It's not like his behavior came from the drinking. That the anger and the verbal abuse and all that stuff. Um, it was just another thing that he had, if that makes any sense. It 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 didn't seem to make him any worse than he already
Okay.
was.
And were there any times in your
But
childhood where he didn't drink?
no,
And
I mean this was throughout my
has
life.
his drinking gotten worse or better or stayed about the same?
It stayed about the
And
same.
how many drinks, if you had to guess, how many drinks does he have in a week? Like 5 a day, 35 a week, 6 a day, 42. So, I mean, 4, 28. Like, how many drinks a week do you think? I know maybe a bit more on the weekend, but sort of averaging it out.
So he would go leave and go hide and then go get drunk in the garage. And this probably happened 3 to 4 times a
Oh,
week.
God, I'm so sorry.
So not sure how many drinks that would be if it was
What,
more in liquor.
is he a
But
big man?
no, he's I'm 5'9" and he's 200 pounds, so he's pretty big for his height.
Wait, you're
Yeah.
5'9" and he's 200 pounds. I mean, if we don't merge the two of you together.
Oh, sorry. Yes, he's my
Oh, you're
height.
both
We're
5'9".
both five
So
nine,
he's kind of
and
overweight, right?
yes,
Unless
yes.
he's like Mr. Muscle Guy, which he probably isn't if he's getting bombed in the garage. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a drinker, so I don't know, but I would assume that's like to get drunk, to get bombed over the course of an evening, probably, what, 10 drinks?
Yeah, that seems about right as
Okay.
as an equivalent. Yeah.
So 3 or 4 times a week he'd get drunk. Now, would he get drunk to the point where he could, like, he had to be carried up the stairs? God help you. I mean, I'm sure your mom would have a tough time with 200 pounds. Did he like stagger up the stairs? I mean, what was he like at the end of his night of drinking?
Never really that. I mean, we kind of our family has a lot of that farm boy type strength. So I mean, he would just basically stumble around and eventually end up in bed. But you know, I don't remember him ever having to be actually hoisted. Not that bad
And
drunk.
how, like, what time would he retreat to the garage? And then I guess he'd head to bed at some point, but like, was it like 7 to 12 or 8 to 11 or?
Well, 8 to 11.
Okay, got it. So would it be sort of after dinner, he would retreat to the garage and just drink? Did he have any
Yes.
sort of ostensible hobbies back there? Was he like restoring a car and drinking or what?
Yeah, it was kind of under the guise of he's going out there and he's going to go work on a car or something like that. But that was the story that we were supposed to believe.
Oh, so he just lied, right? He just lied about it.
And instead of it, well, I mean, he would go out and do it, but to me, it just seemed as more of an outlet for if at the end of the night you're going to be more drunk than whatever you're doing on the car. I mean, that seems more
Yeah,
of a
not much of a
priority
car
then,
thing
right?
going on there, right? Okay.
Yeah.
And the 3 days or 4 days that he wasn't getting bombed in the garage, would he still drink?
It wasn't every night, but I think.
No, no, I get that. Like you said, 3 to 4 days a week he'd be drinking in the garage, right?
Right. Yeah.
And
Yes.
what about the rest of the time?
The rest of the time, just if it'd be, after work during that 8 to 11 time, he'd probably uh be just watching a movie or just playing some video games downstairs in the basement or something like that.
Okay, but how much would he drink?
Outside of the 3 to 4 days, I would say not at all. I don't remember him really doing that.
Okay, got it. So he's doing 30 to 40 drinks a week, kind of on average, right?
Okay.
No, don't okay me. I'm sorry. I want to be accurate, right? If you're saying 3 to 4 times a week you get drunk and it's 10 drinks, that's 30 to 40 drinks, isn't it?
Yes.
And hard liquor, right?
Yes.
And do you know how long he was an alcoholic for?
It's had to have been at least since his mid-20s, and he's in his early 60s now.
Right, okay. And did your mother drink at all?
No.
And he's still drinking the same amount, right?
Yes.
And does he have any other vices?
None like that. No.
And does he do anything else to take care of his health, exercise or anything like that?
Nothing really sticks. I mean, this was the thing, the last few months that I lived with him, um, I left them about a year and a half, almost a year and a half ago now, but it was just this same thing that I was trying to do my whole life with them, which was just trying to get them to go work out, and I'd go and try and walk with them, and then, you know, a year and a half, or sorry, I left and, came back a couple of times to see him, and, none of those habits stuck, or, he doesn't watch his diet, doesn't work out consistently, so none of that stuff.
Okay, got it. Got it. So he blew about probably four to $500,000 on drinking.
Wow.
I mean, if you take the money that you would have used to drink at home, 30 to 40 drinks a week, and you were to invest that at, I don't know, 7% or something like that, then you're four to $500,000 poorer. Drinking is very expensive. I mean, obviously, if you're out, even worse. But if you're drinking at home, 30 to 40 drinks a week, it's a lot of money. I mean, there's the cost to your health, of course, there's the cost to your relationships, but there's a big financial cost. And this is something that alcoholism is not always, it should be talked about in these kinds of ways. But I mean, that's the price of a decent house in many places that went into your father's liquor and separated him from his family.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, if you add the associated health bills over time, it's even worse because it's pure. I mean, a lot of sugar and fat and all of that. Okay. All right. So, what sort of positive interactions, if any, did you have with your father over the years when you were a kid?
There was a period of time where we would go almost every weekend, I would say from 12 to 16, we would go out and we would go out on fishing trips, and, those events were, always a good time, just being out in nature and stuff like that. That was pretty good.
And how often would those occur?
Probably there was a period where we were doing it pretty consistently, so I would say maybe once every 2 to 3 weeks on average from age 12 to
Okay. And you
16.
would be sort of out all day with your father. And how many siblings do you have?
I have
And
one
would you
younger
both go out?
brother.
Oh, just you.
No.
Okay. Why is there a big age gap?
No, he's 2 years younger than me, um, and, he was just pretty much raised doing hockey, uh, ever since he was super young. I think at the age of 4, he just started and kept up with it, and that's something that I really, I really wish I would have had a better relationship with him because we were just so separated. He did hockey and I did a lot of the outdoorsy, you know, fishing
But did
type
he not want
stuff.
to do
So
any fishing? Or was he doing hockey at the time that you would be doing fishing?
he was doing hockey at the time, and then we took him out a couple times, and he did
Okay.
he
Yeah.
said that
I
he
mean,
didn't like it.
you have to be kind of
But
mellow
then,
to enjoy fishing for sure.
yeah,
Okay.
right.
All right. And what did your father do for a living?
Um, this was something that I'm kinda he worked in healthcare, and he was a I I I I don't even I can't
What
even
is he, Chandler
explain
Bing
it
from Friends? What do you
beyond he
mean?
was a
Like
project.
nobody knows what he does.
Yes.
Just goes to an office and stuff.
He was a project manager in healthcare, and that's pretty much all that I could I know it's incredibly vague, but, um, I never really got down the spiel that he gave off
Wow.
of what he did.
Okay. So when you were out fishing for what 6, 7 hours a day on a Saturday, what would you talk about?
So crazy because it's just it's it, I can't even remember. It must have been about just the surface level stuff because I can't remember. It's just maybe movies. Um, I don't even. I'm drawing a blank on what we would talk about.
I
Um,
mean, 24, 48. I'm sorry. I'm
24.
sorry. I was just thinking like, twice a week, 7 hours a day. Sorry, twice a month, 7 hours a day. That's 14. Um, 14 hours a month times 12 months. That's 48 days. Well, sorry, not 48. Let's cut it in half for winter or whatever, wherever you are. Maybe it's 24, times 3 years. That's 72. So, I mean, that's a lot of time to not remember any conversation. I'm not faulting you for it. I'm just pointing it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. And how did he and your mom get along?
So there, the what my mind first goes to is kind of what I was talking about with it's that alcoholism was never really brought up or confronted, and it kept going that long for 20 years.
40. Sorry, 40
At least
years.
I know in Alcoholics
Mid
Anonymous,
20s. He's in his early 60s. So 40 years.
for
Sorry to
40
be a
years, right?
nag, but go ahead.
No, that's exactly right. And they knew each other in their mid 20s, so she was on board with all of that for 40 years, definitely. Um, and in the Alcoholics Anonymous book that I read, it's the don't talk, don't feel. I mean, she rarely. I mean, I don't think I ever saw her cry or be emotional about something. I mean, sometimes my brother would annoy her and she would yell at my brother, but like she was very, very unemotional in that way.
Well, she
And
can't have liked your father. I mean, I'm sorry to be
what
blunt,
do you
but
mean?
that's just a basic fact. You, she can't have liked your father because if you love someone and they're drinking in a very unhealthy way and separating themselves from you 3 or 4 nights a week for the evening, then you would say what?
You would bring it up and you would say it's either me or the drink, right?
Well, that's kind of aggressive, and maybe it would come to that. But the first thing I would say is, hey, I really miss you. I miss spending time together. I miss cuddling on the couch. I miss chatting after dinner. You go out to the garage 3 or 4 nights a week, and I don't really see you after dinner until you sort of pass out in bed. I miss spending time together, and I'd like to solve that because if and so maybe you wouldn't start with an ultimatum, right? Or you'd say, "Gosh, I mean, this level of drinking is very unhealthy. So we kind of need to figure out how we can kind of cut it back a little, right? Because I want you to be around into your old age with your kids and all of that. Or you'd say something like, "Geez, this is very expensive," or you'd say something like, "Hey, you're the father of my children. You kind of owe these boys guidance, right? You kind of owe these boys your attention, being present, right? Because you can't be drinking and present to those around you, right? Like alert, aware, connected, whatever you want to call it, right? But it's impossible because drinking is like this big, thick glass door that comes down in front of someone. I mean, you can see them, you can see them moving, but you can't connect with them.
Right, right. And I always remember just feeling so sad when I would go out there in the garage and just see him drunk and just so ashamed. And definitely right from what you're saying. It wasn't ever it y- you're not being a leader for sure.
So sad and ashamed. No, I mean, obviously, I'm not disagreeing with your experiences, but that's not at the bottom, I think. I don't know. I'm just telling you what I think. I don't think that's at the bottom of what you were feeling.
Okay. Um, let me let me go to another
See,
example. So that
sad.
that one.
Sorry, the reason I'm saying that is so sad is how we feel when people have not inflicted something on themselves. Right. So let's say that you have a grandparent, they live a healthy, good life, and they exercise, take care of themselves, and then they get some, I don't know, some horrible disease, Alzheimer's or something like that. That's sad because they didn't do it to themselves, right?
Yeah.
But if you have some aunt who's obese and ends up getting her foot cut off because she's got diabetes and she can't get the circulation out there, I mean, that's not sad. That's just stupid.
Yeah.
If somebody gets lung cancer out of nowhere, they never smoked. That's really sad. Somebody smokes 2 packs a day for 40 years and gets lung cancer. That's not sad. That's self-inflicted. That's like Russian roulette, right? Somebody gets shot out of nowhere. That's really sad. If they play Russian roulette for kicks and then they end up with a gunshot wound, I mean, that's not sad, right?
Yeah. In those moments, I have okay. So when I would see that, I didn't feel anger, but now I feel anger, and I've been reading some Alice Miller books, and I know that she talks about not continuing contempt for your parents, but having a righteous anger. So would it be that deeper down it wasn't sadness and more anger?
Well, let's get there, right? So the first level of sadness is it probably comes out of your father's self-pity. So that's probably a father's emotion transferred to you. The second emotion you said you felt was shame, right? But why
Mm.
would you feel shame for what your father's doing?
Mm.
Again, I think this is more your mother and your father's feelings.
Mm.
I don't think these are your feelings. I think these are your parents' feelings.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't remember Alice Miller's thoughts about, but for people who inflict own suffering and then claim to be victims. Some guy who was an asshole parent who then is full of self-pity because his kids don't really want to spend much time with him. It's like, well, yeah, but you were a terrible parent. You were a horrible parent. Like, why? Don't give me this self-pity thing.
Yeah.
So, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say that makes looking at that now, that makes more sense to me to have contempt. That seems more rational than I guess I was just doing an argument from authority for Alice Miller.
Well, I mean,
But
she's also a female, so she's going to have different ways of processing it. Because the sad and the shame, that's female stuff.
yeah.
So if you could sort of go back in time and stand in the doorway of the garage and say the most honest things that you could to your father out there stewing in his own alky sauce, what would you say?
How the fuck do you expect me to respect you when you act like this? I don't want to be around you. I don't like you. I've never liked you, and I feel like we'll never be able to patch this.
What and I appreciate that. What about earlier on when you were quite little, when there was maybe some chance of turning it around? I mean, this sounds more like when you're mid to late teens and it's all water under the bridge and there's no reversal. What would you have said, do you think, if you could magically give yourself the eloquence in a time machine when you were like, I don't know, 6 or whatever?
I guess I would just be honest and say that, Dad, that makes me feel really, really. I don't like when you do that. That makes me feel really, really bad. Um, why are you doing that?
Right.
I guess that's what I would say.
Okay. And how do you, it's hard because we don't see each other. How do you feel? Because I don't get any real emotion at all in your voice, which is fine. I mean, it's not like an acting audition or something, but how do you feel when we're talking about this stuff?
Well, as I said that, the last part being a 6-year-old, I feel now like a real weight in the middle of my chest area, and, I think that I want to feel more, but right now it's just kind of a uh, sitting weight in my chest that's just kind of it is it is it good to feel the right to feel sad now?
Well, how old are you now?
22.
22. Yeah, I mean, so it's young to process and it's all quite recent. Wow. Your parents were older parents. Okay. All right. Is your mom quite a bit younger than your dad, or?
He's actually older. She's a year older.
Holy, so she had you in her early 40s.
Yes. It would have been late 30s. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, because I thought your dad's early 60s. I was thinking 62 or 63. If you're 22, that would be 41 or 42. And if she's older, sorry if I get my math wrong.
Well, can't believe I don't know this math here. One was born in 1964 and the other 65. So
Okay. So 64, she'd be 62 or 61. 62, you're 22, so she would be pregnant at 39, have you at 40, I think. Okay, all right, got it. Okay, sorry, just wanted to make sure I get the math right. And do you know why they had you so late, you and your brother?
they told me that I was just an accident and that they wanted, I think this is how it goes. They wanted my brother as kind of an accompaniment to me.
Holy crack. So they cracked out one at 40, 41 and another one at 43, 44?
Yeah, he's 2 years younger than me.
Wow.
So
Okay, so why the fuck would they tell you you were an accident? I mean, that's not fun to hear, is it?
no,
Why on earth
not
would
at
you
all.
say that? In what context were you told that?
I think I just asked why I was. It was just a. I remember there being no gravity to it. It wasn't like a. Okay, now I'm starting to feel now it like it wasn't like a insult or anything like that. It was just a light like, oh, you were an accident type thing.
Well, that sucks. That's a shitty thing to say to a kid.
Could you explain more about why that is? I mean, I know it's probably
Oh,
obvious,
because
but
they didn't want you.
just yeah,
They didn't want you.
yeah. Hmm.
They didn't want you. I mean, that's like, that sort of classic story of some teen shit, where the girl is going out with the kind of nerdy guy and he says, "Why are you going out with me?" And she says, "Oh, I had to. I lost a bet." How the hell is he supposed to feel?
Pretty
Well,
bad.
it's terrible, right?
Yeah.
To say to a child, "I never wanted you. I'm just putting up with you," is appalling.
Yeah.
So they lack empathy. I mean, if that's true, then you take that shit to the grave. You never tell anyone.
Because if they would have had empathy, they wouldn't have wanted to inflict
Yeah,
that on
because
me.
if you're not wanted, then what are you supposed to feel about yourself?
Gonna have low
Oh yeah,
self-esteem.
your parents don't even want you, and then you combine that with the fact that your father preferred alcohol, which is shitty poison. Your father preferred shitty poison to time with his family, and you weren't wanted. The fuck are you supposed to make out of that? You're a burden. You're an imposition. We put up with you. It's all the stuff that terrible parents do to maintain power over their children. Hey, man, I don't even really want you here. So you better not push your luck. You better not have too many demands, kiddo. You're hanging by a thread anyway.
It's amazing how that isn't verbally expressed, but you look at it now and you connect all the dots to the actions, and it's like that's how they behave. They behaved as if well, they did believe that
Right.
because they told me I was
How
an
old were you
accident.
when they told you?
I must have been in my mid-teens.
Right. I mean, obviously your father chose shitty poison over you. He chose
Yeah.
self-erasure over human connection. So did your father work? I don't want any details, obviously, right? But did your father work like a 9-to-5 job? Was it more entrepreneurial? Was it for a large organization? Was it, God forbid, for the government?
It would have been for specific hospitals. So I don't think that's
It's
specifically government.
quasi-government. It's quasi-government.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So tell me about your father's discipline. He was overweight. He didn't exercise. He drank horribly to excess. And tell me about his discipline. Where did discipline show up at all for him?
I mean, he would always there was never a time where it's like least that I can remember, where he couldn't, or, he didn't wake up to go to work at the wrong time or something like that. At least I can speak from me that I was always touted as the most disciplined person in the family. Um, it goes back to me kind of having to be the emotional center for these crazy people. Um, I can't think of any other instances from for him, at least, where I could say that that was disciplined.
Sorry, what was discipline? Oh, you mean like getting up and going to
From
work, right?
Yeah, I guess I would say that. Um, can't really think of anything else though that would be like, well, that's disciplined
Yeah, I
from
mean,
him.
addiction is a kind of laziness, right?
Oh,
Because if you have an addiction, then you should deal with the addiction, and especially if you're a husband and a father, like you can't be an addict. It's lazy. It's easier to go and drink than it is to connect with your family, right? Or deal with your demons, your childhood, or whatever. So, because you said that when you were doing this kind of work with your brother, you said, "Man, we just feel like it feels like we're slaves, right?" And so you hated chores. I think I could be wrong, obviously, but I think you hated chores because your father was lazy. So he had no credibility when he said to you, "Kids, you got to work hard." I mean, he didn't even try to
mm.
overcome his addiction, and he's still drinking pretty heavily in his 60s. So for 40 plus years, or whatever, 40-ish years, he's been an alcoholic and has never dealt with it. And he's sitting there saying, "Well, son, the important thing is you've got to be disciplined and you've got to work hard." But he let alcohol come between
It's amazing.
him and his family. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to remark, it's amazing how children can, they just innately process that hypocrisy, and they can't even, because I couldn't go back then. I didn't know why my body and just everything rejected and just hated those chores and that type of toil. But looking at it now, it's just, I think it's just processing the hypocrisy that you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, if your father was great fun to spend time with and you laughed, you joked, you got good wisdom from him, then if you had to go out and do some physical labor with him, it wouldn't feel like enslavement, right? I mean, when I have to shovel my driveway, which is a hell of a job, I have to shovel my driveway, my daughter and I will shovel together, we'll throw some snowballs at each other, we'll chat, you know, she's happy to come out.
Yeah, and just looking at my life now, I mean, even if I can't remember, I can say now that there's obviously dysfunction in my life. I mean, I'm dealing with, um, having no friends, and my other friends being states away, and them possibly not being friends, and, you know, uh, trouble with, relationships with girls and stuff like that. So it's just, if there was all that time there, that would, like, let's, like, just say the fishing, for example, and there was any wisdom passed down, um, I wouldn't be in this situation, right?
Yeah, do you know
Hopefully.
why? Sorry, do you know why your father couldn't pass you any wisdom?
Do I know why? Because that would've led him to reveal his own evils?
I like that guessing something like this. Okay, so let's say that your father said it's important to put your family first. What would you say to him when you got older?
You didn't put your family
Yeah, like
first.
who the hell are you to tell me that? You drunk? Right? If he said it's important to fulfill your responsibilities, what would you say?
You didn't fulfill your responsibility of leading me towards the path of a
It's
successful
important to
life.
be honest.
You were never honest with
Yeah.
me about.
You said you were working on a car, you liar.
Yeah.
It's if you have a problem with someone and it's important to talk about that with them directly.
Mm.
It's important to have discipline, son. Sometimes you just got to do what you don't feel like doing, and that's what's going to separate you from all the lazy people in the world.
You've been doing what you feel like doing with
Yeah.
alcoholism for 40
Who are
years.
you to talk to me about discipline? You can't even not drink. Son, it's very important to exercise and stay in shape.
You're
Right.
overweight.
So, how is he going to tell you to be disciplined? How is he going to tell you to work hard? He can't.
Can't.
So the reason you get relentless small talk is any moral instruction, you would have just laughed at him in a way.
Mm.
Be like my mom saying to me, son, it's very important that you don't just fly off the handle and jump to conclusions. It's like, what? Have you met yourself? So people who are not good people can't give good advice because they look insane. How did your parents get along?
It was it wasn't like constant, nonstop, like raising voice, shouting type things. I mean, that happened maybe once a year. I guess I can only describe it as like a quiet kind of fighting. Like if there was something, if there was point of contention, um, we wouldn't have like a family conference about it, or I wouldn't hear them talking about it. It would just kind of fester, if that makes any sense. And maybe they talked about it with themselves at night or something like that. But um,
No, but what I mean is, did
th-
he take delight in your mother's company? Did they laugh together? Did they have inside jokes? Were they affectionate? That sort of stuff.
yes, they were affectionate. Well, they were physically affectionate toward each other, I guess. Um, but they didn't have inside jokes, and this was another thing too, is just they didn't have any friends. My entire life, they had, business acquaintances and, you know, uh, club acquaintances through my brother playing hockey, but it was like they never had a close relationship with somebody that was like an actual, my dad never had a male friend. My mom never really had a female friend that she ever hung out with. They were just completely isolated. And they would, if they tried to make new friends, on Facebook or something like that and go hang out with them, they would always find something wrong about them. At least that's what my mom did, and then shut them off. Um, I guess that doesn't really talk about my mom and dad's relationship, but um,
And what were
mm.
their religious beliefs?
So were they came from a Baptist Christian background, and they believed in a God and the Bible and all that stuff like that, but they weren't completely evangelical. I mean, we rarely went to church. We would just read through the book and talk about it. Um,
Oh, so
they're
you sort
kind
of
of honestly,
did Bible study at home, is that right?
yeah.
Okay. Okay, got it. And what sort of religious lessons did you get out of the Bible with your parents? Or what sort of moral lessons did you get out of the Bible?
Well, I definitely got it repeated to me that you know, do the 10 commandments, and if you just did the 10 commandments at the end of life, you'd be pretty good off. I remember that being repeated. So all the honor your mother, love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and stuff like that from the 10 commandments. Um, but I would be kind of the ones leading the Bible studies when we went through them. I mean, they didn't really know too much. I mean, my mom was just big on um, the end time stuff and the fear mongering about that with the Revelation book at the end of the New Testament. But I would always be kind of the one leading the um, Bible study session when we were at home, just because I just liked reading and I wanted to ask these questions about it. But I think they just really didn't know too much. It just felt like it was more of just a tool. The Bible was a tool to exert more power over me because of the whole honor your parents type thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I got it. Okay, yeah, because if you have to go to God to get honor, it's because you ain't getting honor organically.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Okay. And you said you've had trouble with the girls. What do you mean?
Well, we did a call on this, and I just broke up, or not just broke up, but in October, out of my longest relationship yet, 10 months, and I had D-food, and then probably a month later, um, I had went into online dating, and then ended up getting into a relationship with this girl, which was, I understand now, is definitely the wrong thing to do, being in such a volatile situation, leaving my parents. But yeah, to me, it was just repeating. that relationship repeated what I had with, um, I guess my parents or my mom. I mean, we never talked about really any deep things. It was pretty much all small talk. Whenever I would push, um, anything that might have been sensitive, like whenever I wanted to talk about uh, her childhood, and she would just shut me down. And I knew in my gut that I shouldn't have stuck with it. Um, but she was sexy, and I'm 21 years old, and um, I stuck with her for 10 months before I decided to act on my gut and say, yeah, this isn't working out. So,
Right. Okay. And tell me a little bit about your friendships that are currently hanging by the balance.
so I met them in high school. So I've known them since probably I've known them for 5 or 6 years, and it's just crazy. Okay, we we've it's the same thing. We never had any real deep conversations. We partied together. We went on a big cross country trip together where we spent 2 weeks going from east to west across the U.S. So that was a very memorable time and very great. But other than that, it's just we've never gone deep. I come from the South, so they're all Christians. Their families are all Christians. When I was 16 and getting into philosophy, I think I started reading Emerson and then Montaigne, and I was trying to show them these books, and it was just kind of it was never nobody ever got back to me, or never nobody ever showed the same interest about these books that I was getting into at the time, and it's just there's never been there's never to me there's never been a real growth. But then I get torn on. Okay, I've moved away from them since then. We still keep in contact with this group chat, but it's always shallow. Just jokes or light conversation stuff, and um, I get torn on. Well, maybe they have still changed, so maybe I still should go see them. But if I act on my, well, I guess I have these two different feelings, but there's a strong feeling in me of just like I feel like these people are holding me back. I really just want to leave them, and I don't want to like um, you know I chose these people when I wasn't into philosophy, and now I am. So why am I trying to change these people? I should just leave. And then on the other side, it's the shame and the guilt of leaving these people and what they'll say, or I don't know. So is that making any
I was
sense? I
with you
kind of
till the
rambled
end,
there.
leaving these people and ashamed about what they'll say. And just if you can explain that a bit, please.
I'm torn on this feeling I have of I just don't want to. I just want to try to find new friends. And then there's the other side of I guess I need to uncover it more, but it's just like there's a feeling there of fear, I guess, of not of leaving them, of it being the end. And I've been going to therapy, and then one of the therapists said is like I don't want I don't want you to end up completely alone. She said to me, which didn't it didn't really it didn't make sense, but it just kind of reinforced this fear I have, I guess, because to me it's like, well, I'm not broken. I can go and find friends, but I don't have friends, so there's obviously something holding me back. Does that make sense?
Sort of, sort of. What did the therapist mean? She says, if you're honest and live with integrity, you're going to end up completely alone.
Well, I was just explaining to her like just that I don't I have these feelings right now, but I just don't really want to be around these people. I mean, they're just the drink, party, talk about soccer type people, and I want to go find a better caliber of people in my life that I can have a deeper relationship with. And I just remember her saying that she's like I wouldn't go too harsh on it that way. I would want I she's like my fear would be that you end up
What the hell is she talking to you about her fears?
completely
I mean, there's only a
yeah
certain amount that a therapist who's female can tell you about masculinity. Okay, so let me ask you this. When your friends get together, let's say they get together on a Friday night or a Saturday night, how often do they get together without alcohol?
Practically
Okay,
never.
so they're social alcoholics in that they can't socialize without alcohol.
Maybe 8 to
Okay,
9 out of
that's
10
pretty much
times.
it, right?
Yeah.
No, I mean, did they sneak beers into movies? Anyway, I didn't. Right, so like I remember there was a guy in my high school who would inject vodka into oranges and then eat them at the school dances.
Okay.
He died of alcoholism. Anyway, that's true, he did. But okay, so your friends are social alcoholics because they can't socialize really without drinking, right?
Yeah, there's never been a time where it's even been brought up at all of like, "Hey, let's just take it
Yeah,
easy," or
why do we need the alcohol?
let's play some Dungeons and Dragons or
Or
something
even
like
let's
that.
just
Never
have,
that.
I don't know, let's get together and have some pizza and some soda or whatever, or pop, and like we don't need the alcohol. Why do we need the alcohol? What are we afraid of? Are we afraid of interacting without the alcohol? Because people drink out of habit, out of coolness, and also out of social anxiety. And they drink also to cover up how bored they are so that they have cool stories rather than actual conversations. Hey, stupid things I did while drinking, right?
Yeah.
So your therapist knows that you were raised by an alcoholic, right? And when
Yes.
you say, hey, I'm concerned I'm spending my time around social alcoholics, shouldn't she fucking understand that? You were raised by alcoholics. Why do you want to spend your time around social alcoholics?
Oh my
This is what
gosh.
I'm sorry to expostulate, but this is what I don't understand. Why would you want to spend more time around alcoholism? Well, kid,
Oh my gosh.
if you don't spend time around alcoholics, there's no one. That's pretty fucking horrible.
Yeah.
It's a drug planet, kid. Maybe if you go to Dubai, that's all I can offer you. You cannot escape the booze. I mean, shouldn't you not want to spend time with alcoholics if you were raised by an alcoholic? Isn't that healthy? Maybe, again, I'm sorry if I'm missing something, but that's what my first thought is.
Yeah, and it just never occurred to me that way.
Well, all it means is that your
Yeah.
therapist's social circle are all social alcoholics, and they can't get together without their glass of wine or ouzo or whiskey or whatever, right? That's all. It's nothing to do with you. Sadly, it's nothing to do. That's my guess. I don't know, obviously, but that would be my guess. Well, you got to be around people who drink, kid, because
Yeah.
otherwise there's no one. It's like, I was raised by an alcoholic. Are you telling me there's no escape from alcoholism?
Oh
That
my gosh.
forever, when I want to socialize, I have to be around people who drink? I mean, do your friends drink and get drunk?
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like a glass of wine or two at dinner. It's like shit faced, right? And
Yep.
not wanting to be around people who can't socialize without getting shit faced, she considers that dysfunctional.
Yeah, that is, I need to talk about that because that was me talking about this
Yeah.
subject with her last week. Um, and it really only hit me till later of like why it wasn't empowering to say that for sure. Not at all.
I mean, I'm
Um,
pretty sure you could join a running club and they're not pounding shots in the park. You can join a book club. Actually, no, maybe book clubs drink. I don't know. I don't know. What do I know? I barely drink. But yeah, honestly, I don't usually push back against therapists because I'm not a therapist, right? So I don't obviously want to interfere in the relationship. But this is egregious to me, as an amateur outsider. The idea that you say, I have hesitation about spending time with my friends who can't socialize without getting blackout drunk or shit faced or drunk or whatever. And I was raised by an alcoholic and I kind of want to get out of the orbit of alcoholism. And she says, well, but my fear is you're going to end up completely alone. Oof. I'm sorry. I don't think I've ever done this at a show before where I've pushed back hard against what a therapist says. Because again, they're the experts. I'm just some guy on the internet with no credentials, right? So, but I got to tell you, I think that's not good. I think that's not good. Now, if she's going to say, well, what I meant was, if you're a total teetotaler, if you go to an extreme, it's like, oh, but that's not. I mean, listen, if your friends got together for like 4-hour dinner parties and each of them had a beer or two, that wouldn't be much of a problem, I don't think. But it's when they get together and have to drink and have to get drunk in order to socialize, as you say, 8 or 9 times out of 10, that's bad. I mean, also, it's bad for you. I mean, alcohol is a poison. Well, if you don't want to be around people who are poisoning themselves and self-erasing and coming up with whoops and accidents instead of conversation and connection, well, you're just going to be alone. No, that's not true. I mean, most of my friends barely drink.
Yeah, it's
I mean, especially given your history of having been raised by an outright alcoholic. Anyways, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, and am I right in thinking that at least this just makes sense in my head of I chose these people when I had much lower self-esteem than I have now. Obviously, it's still a process and I'm still growing, but I mean, even some of these people, you know, on top of the being okay with the social drinking, um, I just put up with, I train these people to some of them just do these real vindictive stabs when I talk with them. They'll bring up something
Sorry,
embarrassing.
you trained these people? I didn't follow if I missed that.
Well, I guess just because I had low self-esteem and I let them do it and I kept them in my
Oh, you
company.
trained them into this kind of behavior. Okay, yeah, got it. Sorry,
Yeah,
my bad. Okay, and you said so. What do you mean jabs?
well, they would like there's one guy that just he'll bring up specific like embarrassing stuff that I did in high school, and he did this like even like a year ago. So we were 4 years removed from high school, and um, he would just bring up
Well, sorry, like
embarrassing stuff that I did
taller,
and
better
laugh at me.
looking, higher status than this guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, so this is just intersexual competition, right? So he just needs to put you down because you're higher status, and he doesn't like that, and he doesn't want to work to become higher status, so they just drag you down. I've talked about this on the show before. Like I had a friend who used to do that, and I told him to stop. He wouldn't stop, and then he wasn't my friend because it's like, no, I don't want to. I don't want to do that. When it's a bit compulsive, right?
yeah, and there's no there's no changing those people, right?
Well, that's a very good question. I'm glad you asked because that's a very big question. Okay, so what are the preconditions by which we can have reasonable hope that someone will change? What do you think?
Past behavior of them changing, of some growth.
Well, I'm not sure about. Sorry, I wasn't sure if you're going to say more. I don't know about past behavior of people changing. I mean, everybody doesn't change until they change. So there's always going to be some past behavior of not changing, right? So the first thing I think that we need to look at if we think someone might change is, do they think there's a problem that they are responsible for? Right. So if you were to say to your friends, I think we drink too much, and I know we drink too much. Like almost every time we socialize, people get shit faced. So I'm going to make a suggestion that we get together without drinking. Just to make sure we can, and we can have conversations, get along, and do stuff without having to drink and get drunk. What would your friends say?
It would become really awkward and not be talked about in any deeper uh it wouldn't be talked about in any deep way. I mean, it would either be brushed off or it would be kind of like,
I think they'd laugh at it. Okay, Elliot Ness, what is this, prohibition? Come on, man, we work hard all week. There's nothing wrong with a little relaxing, nothing wrong with having a little fun. You got to loosen up. You got to learn how to enjoy yourself. It's not, wouldn't they just like, come on? They wouldn't. I don't know if it'd be awkward or if everyone would just line up to kind of mock and ridicule it.
yeah, it would definitely be like, oh, this guy's cringe for even saying that.
Yeah, like, hey, man, I'm sorry you were raised by a drunk, but that doesn't mean that nobody else can drink.
Yeah, it would be like, what's wrong with you? type
Yeah, like
thing.
what's the matter with you, right?
Yeah,
Because the
it's
social
just
life is built around alcohol. Sorry, go ahead.
it's just it's just been the same thing for 6 years, or however long I've known them. There's been no change in just terms of when can we get together to go do the social drinking?
Right. And they burn thousands of dollars a year. And are there girls around who are also drinking?
No, just their girlfriends. I mean, maybe it's never like going out to a party. It's just all drinking together. You know,
But they got together with their girlfriends. They got together with them while everyone was drinking. Is that right?
yeah.
So a lot of guys encourage drinking so they can get laid, so that they can ply drinks on women who get drunk much more quickly and much more cheaply. And it's to me, I don't want to sound over dramatic. It's a little bit predatory. Here, have a drink, honey. Have a drink, honey. Have a drink, honey. Knowing that the woman has like half your alcohol tolerance, and of course the women are responsible and all of that. But nonetheless, to me, a lot of this stuff is a little again 1% or whatever. Like it's a tiny bit predatory, and asking men to not drink, which means to not give women drinks, is saying, I wonder if women would like you if they were sober.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I definitely see that in one of my friends who has a long-term girlfriend, and pretty much whenever they're around, he's drinking, and it seems like that relationship of, like, I don't want her to know who I am when I'm not this, drinking frat boy type character, but the rest, we kinda have this. I don't know if it's a Zoomer thing, or, uh, we don't even really go out and talk to girls. I mean, it was just more of like a get together at somebody's house and that type of thing.
Wait, so sorry, a lot of the
Pretty,
young men are getting together just to drink with other young men?
yeah, it's like we've been
Seems a
kinda
little gay.
it's well, I think it's
I mean,
just
shouldn't
more
you all
of
be
the,
out talking to girls?
I have, had a longing for that, and maybe it's just more of the, I guess, the Zoomer, being afraid of women. We've been trained through high school or something like that, um, to be more afraid of them. But, that's another
Oh,
reason why I wanna
that's
grow out
such
of it is
baloney.
because.
I'm sorry to be annoying, and I'm going to get shouted down for all of this. So it was the teachers who taught that, right?
I would suspect that we got beaten down through public
Yeah, yeah.
school,
The
to
teachers
be
are like,
afraid of
oh,
women.
consent, and of course, consent is good, but there's like, oh, don't approach girls; it's intrusive, because the girls like like it when boys come and talk to them, and so
Yeah,
and so the reason I'm saying bullshit is okay. Do they believe everything that the government teachers taught them?
no,
No, they're kind of Southern Christian, good old boys, right? So they don't buy the woke stuff, right?
right.
Right. So the one thing that they absorbed is the one thing that they're most scared of: talking to girls. They don't believe the woke stuff. They probably don't go for the communist stuff. They probably aren't wrapping themselves in rainbow flags. But the one thing that gives them an excuse to avoid talking to girls, oh, that they take very seriously. Come on. It's not real.
Mm,
They got handed an excuse
yeah,
and they're grabbing at it.
yeah, out of my entire time with my knowing these guys, I've never seen them. I mean, I've been the only one when we were out social where I would go and talk to girls, at least in that type of way of trying to get them to go out with you.
Well, and even
Um,
if the girl says no, she likes to be talked to.
right. Okay. Yeah. So that's yeah. That's
And
bullshit.
that's,
I
look,
see that.
we don't have to have 10 days of period cramps a month or whatever, right? Women have it kind of tough
Right.
in a lot of ways. I mean, imagine going through life smaller and half your size and half your strength with a giant bag of $100 bills strapped to your ass, right? I mean, it would be a little stressful, right? So women have it negative in some ways. And the one thing that women have it positive is that men are supposed to approach them. So these boys have only accepted the woke part that allows them to avoid their biggest fear, which is of rejection.
Which is another reason why I should find a better caliber of people who aren't afraid of rejection to be around.
Well, we're all afraid of rejection, but you just have to overcome it. You have to push through it, right?
Right. Yes. Yeah.
Because the girl needs to see some strength of character and some ability to overcome your fears. Because if you can't overcome your fears, you're going to be a pretty shitty provider, right? So it's just a necessary mating ritual that guys have to approach girls. And yeah, it's tough and it's unpleasant. And I still vividly remember the first girl I asked out who said no, and then the second one who said no, and then after that, some who said yes. Sure. I mean, but I'd rather do that than what women have to go. I don't have to give birth, right? Even though some mornings it might feel like it. But anyway, so yeah, but the deal is you got to go talk to girls. And so this, like, well, we've been trained, blah, blah, blah. It's like, come on, young men throw off just about every single thing that their teachers say. Oh, except for this one thing that conveniently allows them to avoid their greatest fear and feel like they're being wise and sensible.
Yeah. And that's another thing, like the social drinking that has never, nobody's ever brought it up looking for change.
Yeah, it's
in
kind
this
of a
friend
sausage
group of
fest here, guys. Where are the women?
Yes. It's never been said.
Yeah, and listen, I'm telling you, man, I tell you this from, I hate to say it, I'm nearly as old as your father, Luke, but I will tell you this, that the guys who miss out on the asking girls out stage, they're fucked. They never recover. It's like teens, maybe up to your early 20s. If you miss that window of asking girls out, it's almost impossible to come back from that. I mean, they're setting themselves up for lifelong failures. Are they Christians? Right.
Yes.
So they're supposed to lead, right? So how do you show that you can lead when you don't even know the girl? You go up and ask her, "Hey, how you doing? How's your night?" Whatever you're going to say, right? That shows that you can take initiative and be a leader. Doesn't mean she'll follow. She might have a boyfriend. You might not be her type, whatever, right? But you gotta lead.
And looking into the ones that do out of this friend group have long-term girlfriends, there's always this these big beta vibes about it. Like he's kind of a, got a leash on the guy type thing that I've noticed as
like
well.
This happy wife, happy life stuff.
Yeah, and like it would be either some story of like the woman approached him first, and you would notice when they're together, it was like she's just kind of a nag to him and stuff like that. And at least I would notice those things. And I mean, that also shows our lack of any real depth in the friendship, because to my fault, I never brought that stuff up. I never brought up any of that stuff about.
Sorry, hang on. Sorry,
it kind of seems like she's.
You said to my fault. Sorry, why is that your fault? Or why is that to your fault? I'm not saying it's not. I just don't understand why it automatically would be.
Well, just if I noticed that one of my friend's girlfriends was being a nag or being disrespectful to her, it makes sense for a friend to go, "Hey, why?"
To him,
to him. Why is she treating you like that? And I've never done that.
Okay, but rather than judging it to be your fault, be nice to yourself and ask why. So why haven't you done that? And I don't know whether you should or shouldn't have, but why haven't you?
Maybe because we've never even reached a stage where we could progress to that next level of even talking about that in our relationship. Maybe it's just always been shallow, and so there's steps to it of like.
Well, hang on.
Sorry,
you've known these guys for like 4 years or more, right?
Yeah.
So saying I haven't done it because we're not close is kind of putting the cart before the horse. You're not close because I could easily say, well, you're not close because you don't say those kinds of things. I mean, how are you supposed to get close without being honest and direct? So I don't think it's that, if you don't mind me saying so. And if it isn't that, what else could it be?
Maybe because I innately knew that these people weren't going to accept any criticism or listen to any criticism.
All right. And why do you think you got that sense?
Because I would show them the books that I was reading or the other things that I was interested in. I mean, all of these other friends, they played soccer and they came from a soccer group, and I joined in after that and tried to fit in with them in that way. It's never been something that I've been super passionate about, but it's just been one of the things of where I've showed any interest in something, it's always been lynched to what the main group is interested in. So maybe I just knew from past experience like that not even worth saying anything like that.
Okay, so they can't take criticism, but why can't they take criticism? You gotta see. You want to judge. You want to stop your inquiry with a judgment. Well, it's my bad. I chickened out. I wasn't blah blah blah. I wasn't. But the challenge with philosophy is just to not prejudge, but to try to get to the root of your decision making.
I'm trying. Say that one more time.
Let me try it with an analogy. Have you ever played the game Jenga? Okay, so
Yes.
it's pretty easy to pick up one of those little Jenga blocks, right? Jenga, if it's just sitting on the table, right? You just pick it up, right? But if it's at the bottom of the tower, it's very delicate, right? Have you ever done it where you've got a thread hanging from your shirt and you pull the thread and it doesn't just pop out, but it bunches up the whole shirt and it kind of screws up the shirt when you just pull the one thread? So this is a lot of wisdom for a young man, so brace yourself. Are you ready? All right.
I'm ready.
Here we go. Let's get our think on. Most people, and by that I mean like most people, are not individuals. They are part of an invisible system of relationships. So why, let's just make up a guy's name, Bob. You're Bob, your friend, right? Now, why would Bob be nagged and pushed around by his girlfriend? Why would he think that was acceptable? Let's play this out. Why would Bob allow that or accept that or feel that that was normal and natural?
Because you saw that as a
because that's
kid.
how his family goes. Now, if you have a son, Bob Jr., let's say, so if you have a son and his girlfriend is over and she's snapping at him and telling him he's using the wrong damn fork and don't embarrass her and so on, whatever, right? Then what would you say to Bob Jr.?
Sorry, I just blanked there for a second. I guess I would say I would point out the nagging, right?
No one's that sexy. It's not worth it. You'd say, look, that's no good. Like, and you would, if you really cared about Bob Jr., your son, you'd do it. The moment you saw her snapping at your son, what would you say to his girlfriend or his date or whatever?
I saw him
No,
snapping
she snapped at him.
Her son.
So your son is sitting at the table. He's brought his date over, and she's snapping at him. What would you say?
Why is she talking to you like that?
Well, what I would say is, whoa, 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 whoa. My friend, I'm just meeting you for the first time. I'm sorry if this is what you learned in your family. We don't do it. We don't do it that way here. Yeah, we don't do it. Like we don't nag. We don't snap. Right? We don't correct people in a harsh way. Like that's not how we do things. And I want to like you. I want to like my son dating you, but you can't talk to him like that. Like that's not acceptable. And trust me, if he talked to you like that, I would say the same thing to him. So, you are welcome at the dinner table. And, if things work out, you're welcome in the family. And I want to protect my desire to welcome you into our table and perhaps into our family. And so you can't do that. Right? Now, I'm happy to talk about, if you feel he needs to be corrected or he's holding the wrong fork, that's fine. That's an interesting conversation. I'm happy to have that chat, but not in a snappy way. Does that make sense? I mean, that's what I would say. Now, you went straight to, how dare you talk to my, you can't talk to my son like that. But that's pretty hostile and aggressive, right? It can be more gentle and friendly. So the reason why your friend Bob gets snapped at and put down by his girlfriend is because he's part of a whole system that has completely justified that. And if he starts to, this is why your friends don't pick up your philosophy books, because they respect philosophy more than you do, if you don't mind me putting it in this blunt fashion. And I say this with great humility in that I was much older than you before I began to really respect philosophy. So I say this with all due humility to your relatively tender years. But your friends respect philosophy a lot more than you do, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. So you said you would hand out a book by Montaigne, or maybe something by me, or whatever it is, some book on philosophy or self-knowledge, right? Drama of the Gifted Child, or something like that, right? And you'd say, hey, bro,
Yeah.
just read this book. It's interesting. That's your thought, right? I like this book. You should try it. And why don't they read it?
Because you saying that really gave me a punch in the gut. Because they know that they'd be hypocritical if they did.
Go on.
Well, we're all social drinkers and we all act this way, and we act completely. We're Christian. We act opposite to any rationality
Well,
of philosophy.
sorry, that's relative, but
So
it's going back to their own family, right? So let's say that you gave them Peaceful Parenting. What happens if they read it and truly absorb the contents?
they have to go and present this to their family.
Right. And that doesn't go well. And the reason that their girlfriends snap at them is to appease their parents, to not denormalize how their parents behave, how their mother behaves towards their father, how the mother behaves towards them, their sister, their aunt, whoever, right? Because sure as sunrise,
Wow.
Bob and his girlfriend have probably broken bread with Bob's parents. And Bob's parents have said, oh, she's great. Yeah, we love her. Why? Because she poses no threat to them, because he's got a nagging mom, and a girlfriend who nags the son poses no threat to the mother who nags the son and the husband. Whereas if she is not a nag, then the mother is on high alert, right? Because if the girlfriend is not a nag, then she's going to see very quickly that the mother is a nag, right? And then what's she going to say to her boyfriend?
This is a different way here. This needs to.
I don't like the way your mother treats you. I care about you, and your mother treats you disrespectfully. I don't like that. And then what?
Well, then if you're in the guy's shoes, you have to either fight the draw of your parents or the draw of your girlfriend, right?
So then what you have to do is you have to humiliate your father. Do you know how that comes about?
Because he chose his mother?
Yeah, probably. Yes, probably. But yeah, you have to go to your mother and say, this nagging is unacceptable. Now, whose job was that? Well, his father's
parents
job.
When they met each other.
It was his father's job to say to his then girlfriend, fiance, whatever, no, we don't, let's not do the nagging thing. That's cliched and boring and unpleasant, and I don't want you inflicting that nagging on my kids, right? So the father has been a cuck, a zeta, weak, a pushover, spineless, a eunuch, and the son has to stand up to the nagging mother because the father was too scared, too fragile. It was too unpleasant. So then the son has to say to the mother, stop nagging. And how does the father react to that?
I mean, this is
Well,
pretty
he feels very
explosive.
humiliated.
I mean,
and he will likely side with the mother against the son. Do you know why? Oh, this is so deep. Do you know why? Because if the son successfully stops the mother from nagging, then the father is revealed as a pathetic coward who could have stopped it any time. If the mother says, oh, you know what? You're right. I shouldn't nag. I'll work on that. After the father has been terrified of correcting his wife for 30 years or 20 years or whatever, the son comes along and the mother's like, oh, you know what? You're right. And then how does the father feel? Incredibly humiliated.
Yeah.
Incredibly angry that his own cowardice has now been revealed by the courage of his son. You know, it's very dangerous. I tell you this from personal experience, man. It is very dangerous to be courageous when surrounded by cowards. If you are courageous against a foe around cowards, the cowards will side with the foe and attack you to justify their own cowardice. Because if you succeed where they failed, then their cowardice is revealed as cowardice rather than prudence or compromise or being reasonable or whatever they had lied to themselves about what it was.
And my friends take philosophy more seriously than I do
Because they know that.
because they know that.
They know, like, have you ever seen those videos? I'm sure you have, right? Like this, the dominoes, like they all just go down in a row and they go upstairs and, round in spirals. Like, those dominoes. If you flick one and they all start going down, right?
Yeah.
Well, you're saying, hey, man, just flick this domino. Just read this book. And what do they see? Right? All the dominoes go down. And they're like, fuck no, give me a drink. So the reason why you have shied away from saying to your friend, your girlfriend's kind of bossy to you, she's kind of puts you down, right? Is because you instinctively sense that people are not individuals. They're part of an interlocking system. Like that one piece at the bottom of Jenga. Like if you start Jenga, you're at the top, pretty easy, just pull the little stick out, right? But the bottom, people are very careful and very hesitant, right? Because you pull that one wrong, the whole thing comes down, right? People are not individuals. They are locked into systems of, I think of them like complicated machinery or dominoes or interlocking bricks or jigsaw puzzle pieces, right? It's really hard to take a single piece of the jigsaw puzzle out because it's kind of all together, right? But you are poking around at the base of very fragile structures. And if someone, what do we know about someone whose girlfriend is bitchy to him, nags him? Well, we know that that's what he's used to. We know that his father never taught him to not be nagged. We know that his mother nags him. And we know that if he tries to put a stop to the nagging in his own family, everyone's going to turn on him because they have to believe that the nagging can't be changed. And so they say, well, look, I'm not frightened of my wife. It's just that it's female nature to nag, or whatever lies they tell themselves, right? It's, it's like I don't get mad at gravity because gravity is an absolute and we have to adapt ourselves to absolutes, right? We don't try and wish them out. Like I don't jump off a high wall and say, oh, I believe I can fly, right? Because gravity is a very real fact. I don't want to hurt my ankles or whatever, right? So adjusting to facts is sanity. But cowering before merely human nagginess is cowardice. And so if somebody takes a stand against the mother's nagging, if the son takes a stand against the mother's nagging, the mother attacks him, the father attacks him, the sisters attack him because they're looking for the same kind of power over their future spouses and all that, right? Maybe there's a brother or two that might get behind him, but they usually pretty quickly take it out. But it's like pulling out that bottom gender block, the whole thing come crashing down on you, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I've been seeing them this entire time as not a system, but an individual person. I keep thinking, what do I owe to this particular person or these particular people in this friend group? But
yeah, you think of them as individuals, like but I mean, why is it that someone in a crime gang doesn't get killed? Because what happens if you kill someone who's in a crime gang, in the mafia or something? What happens?
You get the whole gang after you.
Right. Right. Because he's not an individual. He's part of a system. And if you don't deal with people as part of a system, what will happen is you'll end up blaming yourself for cowardice when what you have is rational prudence. Because you're saying, look, it's just one guy. It's just one conversation. Why would I be so nervous about having just one conversation with just one guy? Because he'll fight you tooth and nail. In other words, his entire system of interlocking relationships and power structures and dominance structures, they're all set up to replicate. And his concern, right, as a male, he wants to reproduce. Now, if let's say that in a tribe, all the women nagged, what happened to the guy who wouldn't put up with nagging?
He dies.
Yeah, he dies off, right? The genes die out. So we put up with what the women put off so that they will put out. Anyway, so we put up with what the women hand out because, right, most 80% of women reproduce and only 40% of men. So we are trained to not deviate too much from what our mothers did because that's what all the women of the tribe would do. And so the fear, which is I think what your therapist was talking about, and which we all face, like I wrote about this in my first book, like that walk across the desert from the city of the dead to the small village somewhere out there beyond the dunes where there's some actual people. But, it's a pretty scary crossing because you can't see any oases and it's a hell of a lot of sand dunes that seem to be going off forever and on forever. So if we say, I am not going to put up with dysfunction, and given that almost all people throughout almost all of human history were very dysfunctional, if we say, hey, man, I'm not putting up with dysfunction, then the genuine fear is that we end up alone, we end up not reproducing. Because if you say to your friend, he'll view it as sabotage. If you say, hey, man, why would you let her treat you that way? Why would you let her put you down that way? His genes kick in and say, shut him up. Shut him up. If we call her out on this, she'll just go to some other guy she can push around and our genes will die out. Shut him up. He's trying to sabotage you. He's trying to screw up your chance at a relationship, at marriage, at love, at reproduction. He's sabotaging you completely. He's trying to tell you to adopt standards that will sterilize your balls.
And looking at that system of people at least provides so much more clarity for me on like, okay, so I've defood and I couldn't even, convince my brother. What makes you think that I could do this with a completely different family and bring up these ideas?
And if they know that you've defood and you say, hey, you should read this book that really influenced me, they were like, but I want to have a family.
Yeah.
I don't want to be some weirdo who doesn't talk to his family, like, because that's the perception, right? I want to. So you're basically saying, you should try this drug that almost got me killed. You should read this book that cut me off from all parental support for the rest of my life. I don't get an inheritance. I don't get wisdom. I don't get job offers. I don't get contacts. I got no place to go. 4th of July, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Hey, you should read this book too. And what do they say? Get that shit away from me, man.
Yeah, and it's just been so...
I have these magic books that will sever all human relationships that you know. Want to try reading it? Fuck no. You get that evil spell, goblin, witchcraft, voodoo away from me. Read this, and you'll be very, very alone.
In that philosophy that I'm still working through the process through, it's really transformed my whole life. And I guess it wasn't, I wasn't having empathy for those people who see it on the other side and see how difficult it is, because it's really gone from my parents. Now I've left my job and I'm gonna get a degree and try to up my potential where I was squandering it in a trade job, and now it's touching my friends, and now I'm on the friend subject. It's like I just didn't not having any I wasn't having any empathy for the people who could see that on the outside.
That's what I mean when I say they're taking philosophy in a way more seriously than you are. That was kind of tongue-in-cheek, but there's, I think, an element of truth in it, because you're saying, hey, I've got this fantastic flamethrower. It's super pretty. One side effect is that it will burn down every single relationship you have, but do you want to try it? And they're like, if it's going to set fire to my family house, I don't think I want to play with your fireworks.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess then I just get to like, how do I even go about this radical change? Because I haven't told them that I eat food. If I go to this bachelor party that I'm invited to, then all this stuff is going to be, I mean, obviously the question is going to be, how's your family? How's this? How's that? And I'm going to bring these things up, and I'm going to be
that's
running
a long
up
story
against...
for another time. So if you want to know whether your friend group, I can give you a very simple way to figure out if your friend group is worth hanging out with. Are you ready? Yeah.
I am ready.
Just don't drink.
I'm so ready.
Just don't drink. That's it.
Go
Just
on.
don't drink. If they're getting together and they're all drinking and getting shit-faced, don't drink. I mean, you can bring some near beer, like some de-alcoholized beer or whatever, if you want to, at least have something in your hand, but just don't drink. Have a Diet Coke. Say, oh yeah, it's a rum and Coke, but don't drink, and see what you see. It's horrifying, by the by. You just see people destroying their brains and getting retarded and thinking it's fun. It's repulsive. Like if you don't drink and you're around people who drink to excess, I mean, that's just you looking through the door of your garage, right? And you shouldn't drink, by the way.
Yeah.
Because you're the son of an alcoholic. So you can't drink, really, because it's a dangerous set of genetics that you've got.
Hmm.
So see what it's
Yeah,
like. See what
yeah.
it's like if you don't drink. You go to a social gathering and don't drink. I stopped drinking when going to social gatherings, and I did like 2 or 3, and I was like, Jesus, this is horrible. This is like hell.
Well, I've done that once or twice, and I guess I never came to
Well, but
that
just really observe and
reality.
absorb all
But
the way to the end of the party. Like stay all the way to the end. People throwing up in the bushes. People slurring, people stumbling. I mean, they're poisoned. They poisoned themselves. And say, this is what they
but
want. This is
if
who they are. Sorry, go ahead.
well, if I know the end, which I can see it, I've been there, I've been that. Um, do I just have the right to just ghost out of their lives, or I mean, if I want to, or because I don't really know how to manage this because I know, at least I think I know what it's going to be. I mean, I haven't seen these people in several months, but if they're not going to change and there's
No, they
no
don't even
indication
think
of
there's a
change,
problem. In fact, if you
then
try to bring up change, they think you're the one with the problem. So earlier we talked about like what are the signs that people are going to change? Well, first thing they have to do is admit a problem, and the second thing they have to do is take serious active steps to solve that problem. Not just, oh, I'm drinking too much, I'll cut back, but like, why are you drinking so much? Why can't you be around people? Like you have social anxiety, you have like something, and what's at the root of that? And you go to therapy and like you try and figure out what makes you tick. And like so they admit that there's a problem, and then they take serious invested steps to get to the root of the problem. And then if people do that, what percentage of people who admit that there's a problem and take serious active steps to solve that problem, what percent of those people actually solve the problem? We kind of know this number.
people who are very proactive towards
People who've admitted
changing,
there's a problem and are taking serious proactive steps to solve that problem, what percentage of people actually solve the problem?
I'd say a good majority.
No. What percent? And we know these numbers because in order to lose weight, you have to admit that you're overweight and then you have to diet, right? So you have to admit that you have a problem, and then you have to do some kind of research and figure out what your diet is going to be and read some books, and then you have to diet, right? So these are highly motivated people, and all they have to do is eat less, right? I mean, ideally exercise too, but eat less. So what percentage of people who lose weight keep it off?
Isn't it like 2%
Yeah, I've
or
heard 5%.
3%?
Let's
Or
just say 5% to be as generous as possible, right? So 5% of people lose weight and keep it off. Now, that's not 5% of overweight people. That's 5% of people who are dieting. And dieting, not just like skipping a meal or two here or there once in a blue moon, but like actively dieting. They're the research. So they know that there's an issue, and they are taking active steps to solve it. And they get a huge amount of social praise if they're succeeding. Oh my God, did you lose weight? You look fantastic, right? Unlike philosophy, where you get attacked and condemned for progressing, these people get a lot of social, they can buy smaller clothes. Everyone talks about how wonderful, I can fit into this, I haven't fit into that. And they're excited and happy, and 95% of them gain all the weight back, and most of them even more. Now, your friends don't even think they're fat. So even the people who say, I have a big problem, I'm going to diet, only 5% of people lose the weight and keep it off, right? And your friends don't even think they're fat, and you're expecting them to change and stay changed. In other words, to lose the weight and keep it off. So even if your friend said, oh my God, this drinking is a huge problem, I am going to really work hard to cut back on my drinking, maybe eliminate it completely. I'm going to go to therapy. I'm going to go to rehab. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Only 5% of them would make it. Your friends haven't even said there's a problem.
and if I just acted, if I just acted on my feelings, because it's there's kind of like almost an anger there of just like, and you brought up another thing too that was really important, which was that if these people have a habit of not talking to girls, then they're fucked. It's like that gives me a fright too,
Good.
because
Be
obviously I
frightened.
want love in my life. I want to
Be
be able to
frightened.
get better, but it makes me scared to death. And to me, I just want to kind of ghost and run for the hills. But I know you don't go about
Yeah, listen, I
prescribing,
don't know
but
what you should do,
I just
but I do know that you should know what the facts on the ground are. So let's say a guy gets 25 and he's never had a girlfriend. What does a woman who knows that believe about him?
something's really
Okay,
that's
but
a huge red
what
flag.
specifically does she believe about
Some
him?
specifically,
He's a porn addict
I don't know.
because he's been sexually
Okay,
mature for over a decade and he hasn't had a girlfriend. So how's he dealing with his sexual needs? Pornography, which means he's got some, well, let's just say there's a lot of cascading problems that come about because of a porn addiction in terms of body dysmorphia and performance issues and expectations and intimacy and love and affection and technique and whatever it is, right? So number one, he's a porn addict. Number two, he's a coward because he hasn't talked to girls. Or number three, he has talked to girls and every single one of them has rejected him. Now, what do women think about men that other women have all rejected? No, thank you.
probably some good reason. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Number four, is he surrounded by quality friendships?
No,
No. And how does she know that?
because they're not deep. They're social drinkers.
Because his friends aren't saying to him,
Yeah.
go ask a girl out.
Well, yeah. For that, yeah.
There's a show, it's actually quite a good show, called Freaks and Geeks, came out around 2000. And there's a guy who's very cynical and very negative, and he finally likes a girl, and his friend says, hey, man, we've been waiting for you to like a girl since grade 3. Go ask her out. Go talk to her, right? So if there's a guy who's never had a girlfriend and he's 25, porn addict, coward, or every girl's rejected him, he's not surrounded by quality friends who say, okay, like, what's going on here? Why don't you talk to girls? You gotta talk to girls, right? Let's help you out. Let's figure out how to get you to talk to girls. Let's talk. So he doesn't have quality friends around him. He has other fraidy cat guys who don't talk to girls and they just prop each other up, right? Number 6, he doesn't have good parents. Because if he had good parents who loved him and cared about him, and he wasn't dating, what would happen?
They would bring it up.
Yeah, they say, listen, son, what's going on here? Like, help us understand, you got to talk to girls. Like, I mean, we didn't raise you to end the bloodline, right? Like, I mean, we want to have grandkids. We want you to be married. We want you to be happy. We want, right? So she knows that he's surrounded by very low quality, trashy people, that he's either a coward or every woman has rejected him, and he's a porn addict. How appealing is that to a woman?
The Sahara Desert.
Yeah, absolutely. I get it. Yeah, sorry, it took me a moment. Yeah, I got it. She's dry. I get it. Right. So, so she does not want him. And every single second of every single day that goes on, it just gets worse and worse and worse. 26, 27, it's just worse and worse and worse. And at some point, women say, geez, bro, if nobody wants you, I'm not even going to try and figure out why. I'm just going to accept the wisdom of the crowds. Right? If you ever gone to some fair or something like that, and there's big lineups on every booth except one. That one booth, they're trying to get people to come, nobody's going, right? Do you think there might be something wrong with the food at that booth?
Definitely.
Right. Are you going to sit there, well, maybe I'll order from it and blah, 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 blah. It's like, no. They also, and the last thing I'll say is that they also know that whatever fucked up things is keeping that young man from talking to girls and getting a girlfriend, that they have now normalized it and justified it. So what do young men do if they chicken out from talking to girls? What do they say to themselves? How do they justify it? Because everything we do, we justify. What do they say to justify it?
What you're asking?
Yeah. I mean, you're around some of them. What do they say?
Yes. They don't like guys our age. They're
all shallow, gold diggers,
shallow,
materialistic, Kardashian wannabes. They want older guys. They just, they just want status. 90% of women are chasing 10% of the guys. All the home-mat stuff, which is like, it's true for NPCs, but who cares about NPCs, right? You want to date somebody with a brain, right? So they justify it, right? I bet those grapes were sour anyway, says the fox, walking away from the trellis because he can't get to the grapes, right? So they sour grapes it up, right? This is a lot of the manosphere. And look, there's criticisms to be made of modern women for sure, and there's criticisms to be made of modern men, but who cares? We're not looking for the aggregate, we're looking for an individual. I mean, when I was gold panning, most of what I panned wasn't gold. That didn't mean that I said there was no gold, it just meant I had to look harder, or more carefully, or more intelligently. So they know, the women know, that the man has now hardened his heart to justify his avoidance and the low quality relationships around him that aren't asking him what is the matter and how can we help. In other words, he's surrounded by people who don't love him and don't care about him. And they also know that he does not want his father's life, which means his parents have a bad marriage, which means he only has bad examples from which to draw in life. They know he lacks willpower, and they know that he's content with self-stimulation as opposed to actual females. So your friends who socialize and drink and don't talk to girls and don't have any girls around are coating you with chick repellent every single day. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm not saying you got to go out and be some player, right? Of course, right? But, don't, as a young man, don't be where the women are not. And go talk to women, and yes, you will. I remember talking to a woman many years ago at a New Year's Eve party, and we were having some conversation about Sting, the singer, and I said, yeah, I think he's been married 2 or 3 times. And she's like, I don't think so. And she got really offended because I thought Sting had been married 2 or 3 times. I don't know. I never even bothered to look it up. But, okay, so she's obviously got some weird Sting fetish, and she's very upset that he might have been, I thought he might have been married 2 or 3 times. Like, okay, so she was kind of rude and weird. So what? Just go talk to another girl.
Yeah. That really, this has brought up a whole new level to it, and I really appreciate you going all the way out of schedule and going this
Sure.
long. It's like a primal fear. Now that you brought up the women thing uh of the chick repellent, that's very
And they
scary.
will try to infect you with their justifications. I remember my friend who was not tall telling me he's 2 years older than me. It's a guy I worked with, and also we were good friends for a couple of decades, actually. And I remember him telling me when I was in my early mid-teens or something like that about how, women just don't date short guys. And he saw some show where a guy had to be like a brain surgeon and a millionaire just to make up for the fact that he was 5'6", and, he was just really bitter about it. And I'm like, but some women are fine with short guys, otherwise there wouldn't be any short guys. Like, men aren't fine with bald women, so there aren't any bald women. But just go for shorter women, right? Even the short women want tall women. And so this loser dust, this despair, this can't win, don't try. Oof, man, they'll try and infect you. People can't be passive when they're deluded. They have to work very hard to spread their delusions, and they would try to drain you of hope and optimism. I'm not saying they even consciously mean. It's just an absolute process that all mindsets try to spread themselves. The brain virus, right? Most people are just biological carriers for philosophy, for mind perspectives, for, I guess, memes, as Dawkins would say. But in the same way that if you have a cold virus, the cold virus is just using you to get to someone else. And mindsets, the sort of manosphere stuff, the cynical stuff against women, the Myron Gaines stuff, some of the Andrew Tate stuff, they are just using those people to jump from person to person, to reproduce their mindset. I mean, every now and then I'll tangle with the stupid marijuana addicts on X, and they just get very angry, and it's their addiction that's trying to spread. The problem with addicts is not that they destroy their own lives, but that they are ground zero for trying to screw up everyone else's lives too, because they spread it. Here, have a drink, man. Anyway, so sorry, bit of a rant, but I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so we should wind down very soon, and I'm sorry to But let's
Yes.
fit out a schedule, and I'm happy to chat. But I do have a couple other
Yes.
things to get to this evening. But I'm certainly happy if there's anything we can conclude on.
No, I'm very grateful. I really appreciate it. You've hit me with some body shots, so there'll be definitely some things worth considering.
Fantastic. And listen, I'm happy to chat anytime, and please let me know how it's going. And just it's crossing the desert is worth it. I mean, especially now. Like you could argue you're some medieval village in Montaillou or something in France. Okay, there's no point breaking out of the mold of social conditioning because there's nobody else. But now with the internet, you can find people. You can start a philosophy group. You can start a book club. You can do any number of things to get people together and find someone. Now with this kind of communication technology, you don't have to be alone unless you want to be, and I know you don't want to be, so that's not an option. But you got to be proactive to make stuff happen. All right, brother.
Okay.
Thank you. Take
Thank you,
care.
Steph.
Good night.
Appreciate you so much. Bye.